morning, I'm going to talk to you about those who join sides with the devil. I'll talk to you about liars themselves. Before we read in 1 Samuel, let me read one very simple verse in the book of Proverbs, Proverbs chapter 28, verse 13. Don't turn, you just listen. Verse 13 in Proverbs 28 says, "He that covereth his sins shall not prosper, but whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy." He that covereth his sins shall not prosper. And one of the chief characteristics of a liar is that a liar has to keep covering his sin. He's got to keep telling one lie after another to explain the other lie that he told. Once a person starts lying, there's no end to it. And today we have a real problem in the fact that we see people lying even in government. President of the United States of America, in a Watergate situation where truth came out, tapes were made of conversations, and he had said one thing and declared straight up and down that he had never done so and so and what have you, and then come to find out they played the tapes and find out he had lied the whole time. Not only found out he lied, found out he was a filthy-mouthed person. So many things. Young people, wonder what it would be like if someday, while you were home, I were to sneak in there and put a tape recorder and tape record everything that went on in your house. Wonder what it would be like if I could tape record everything you say in the classroom, whether it's during the class periods or whether it's on the breaks and the recesses, the lunches, whatever it is, everything you said about somebody else. I got an idea that it would be a very embarrassing situation, wouldn't it? The fact of the matter is, did you know that someone is recording everything you say? You say, here? No. In heaven. God is recording everything you say. God keeps a record book of every word that's ever uttered according to the Bible. And young people, my Bible says that one day people are going to be proven guilty and deserving of eternal hell even because of what they say and how they say it. My Bible says that Christians are one day going to be rewarded according to what they say and how they say it. And that's a fact. Hey, words are unbelievably important. And you need to understand that every word you say, God help you, you make sure that it's absolutely 100% the truth. Lying will never get you anywhere except in trouble. It's a sin against God. God says, if you cover your sins, you won't prosper. In other words, you can't get ahead. You can't be a success. You can't achieve anything by lying. It may seem like that you will for a short while. But brother, once the lie is found out, then you've had it. It's an interesting thing. A person walks in. He has laid out carefully the plan. And he enters a bank. He's got a gun in his pocket. He's going to rob the bank. He's got it all figured out, how he's going to get in and how he's going to get out. Has a pretty good idea how long he ought to stay in there so that it won't get caught. But today we've got technology so advanced to the point that people got problems. Used to, banks could be robbed and people could disguise themselves and somebody said, you did it, and they said, no, I wasn't there. And people that were in the bank that were robbed would give all kinds of conflicting stories, and nobody could really remember just exactly what he looked like for sure and what have you. And many times people got away with it. Today it's getting harder and harder. You know why? Because today when a bank robber goes into every bank, and in most places of business now, it's doing the same thing, they now have a camera that is constantly taking pictures. And that bank robber, time and time again, bank robbers have been convicted and sentenced to prison simply because they got their picture. They have moving pictures of the whole thing. The Patty Hearst situation, same idea. There's Patty Hearst right there in the bank. Got the moving pictures of the whole idea. Hey, do you know that God has your photograph too? God knows who you are, and God knows what you're doing. And young people, God will not let anyone get away with lying. Lying is a sin against God that will catch up to you. It has to catch up to you. Now look, if you will, in 1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 1, and let me show you what God says about liars. 1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 1, Samuel also said unto Saul, The Lord hath sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken or listen thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek, an enemy of Israel, literally Amalek stands for the flesh. I remember that which Amalek, a people that hated the Jews and tried to destroy them, what Amalek did to Israel, and how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt, when Israel was coming back from Egypt with Moses to the promised land. God says, now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman and infant and suckling and ox and sheep and camel and ass. And God gathered the people together and numbered them in Telem, 200,000 soldiers, footmen, and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to the city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. Saul's getting ready to do what God said. God said, I remember. Hey, God never forgets sin unless that sin is repented of, that sin is confessed by an individual and placed under the blood of Jesus Christ. God says, I remember. God has a good memory. And God will not let anybody get away with sin. And he said, now then, go destroy Amalek because of what they did to the Jews, what they did to my people. So here comes Saul. And he's getting ready to do the same, do the whole thing. And in verse 8 we find that Saul, he went down, and brother, he was destroying them, and man, he was killing them right and left. Verse 7, and Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he did what God said, but he only did it. He only did it on a partial way. Now, everyone listen up here. You can hear me if you listen. Saul did it in a partial way in the respect that he said here in verse 8, and he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive. Now God said, back up in verse 3, go kill everybody. But Saul comes back and he says, the Bible says that Saul took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and he utterly destroyed all the other people with the edge of the sword. But Saul didn't kill the king. He didn't kill the king of the Amalekites, the king of these people, the leader. In verse 9, Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep. Whoops, he didn't kill all the sheep either, did he? And the oxen, and the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good. Saul went over and he said, you know, some of it looks pretty good. There's no sense killing everything. Young people, hey, a big mistake that people in this world are making, unsaved people as well as Christians, is simply that they believe that God really doesn't mean what he says. And that God will overlook some little things. I mean, after all, he didn't take all the people, he only took one of them, the king, the leader. And above all of them, that should have been the one that had been killed, the guy that got those people living like they were living, doing what they were doing. But he didn't take all the sheep and all the oxen and all the lambs. He just took a few. He just took the best ones. And isn't that amazing? People say, "Oh well, I just want you to know that it wasn't a big black ugly lie. I just took a little white lie. I didn't take any black sheep, just got the white ones. See them over there? Just a few of the white ones over there." Young people, God hates all lying. God hates all sin. God told Saul, he said, "You kill him." Now watch it. Hey, Saul was king of Israel, God's people. And Saul don't know it, but later you find out Saul actually lost his kingdom because of this one thing, because he did not do what God said. The Bible says that he would not utterly destroy everything, but everything that was vile and refuse, or everything that was vile and wicked, and everything that was crooked and crippled and rotten, well, he killed that. But he saved the best of the flesh, the best of the Amalekites. There is no good flesh. There's nothing good about the flesh at all. There's nothing good about sin at all. But Saul, he decided he knew more than God did. Verse 10, "Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, It repented me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he has turned back from following me, and he hath not performed my commandments." For God knew what Saul did, and God came to Samuel, and God told Samuel, he said, "I'm sorry that I had made Saul king. I thought he'd do what I said, but he didn't do it. He's quit following me. He has not obeyed my voice." And it grieved Samuel, and Samuel cried unto the Lord all night. Look at verse 13. "And Samuel came to Saul the next day, and Saul come walking up to Samuel after the big battle." You see, Saul was to come back and report to Samuel how it went. Saul comes walking up, and Saul said unto Samuel, said, "Blessed be thou of the Lord." He says, "Well, praise the Lord, Samuel. It's good to see you this morning. And just want you to know that everything's great." And see, old Samuel, he knows the truth. And I'll tell you what, you put it down, anybody who is a liar is also a hypocrite. You want to know why? Because liars have always got to make people believe that they're not liars. They've got to put on an act. And here comes old Saul walking up, and he says, "I just want you to know, man, it is great to serve the Lord." And he said, "Man, we was out serving God." Yes, he said, "We was out witnessing with a sword, and we just killed everything that moved. Just had a big time. It was wonderful." Yes, sir. Great day for the Lord. Praise God for what he does. Isn't it good to serve God? And then he said, "I have performed," verse 13, "I have performed the commandment of the Lord." He said, "Hey, I did what God said, and I'll guarantee you there's nothing better than serving God." He said, "Samuel, I just want you to know, you should have been there. It's fantastic to see God work like that. And I just love the Lord so much and praise God for all of his blessings, and I just want you to know that I'm a good Christian, and I'm sold out to God, and I'm living for God." He's a liar. He's a hypocrite. And any Christian who is playing with any sin of any kind, I don't care what it is, but a Christian who plays with any kind of sin, no matter what it may be, and then puts on the front that they're really sold out to God and they love God, is a hypocrite and a liar. And as the pastor said yesterday, young people, lying and cheating go together. Anybody who cheats is a liar. Anybody who cheats is a hypocrite. Anybody who cheats is a thief. They're crooked. It's a sin against God. But today, young people and adults alike, they think nothing at all about lying. That's just a normal thing. Easy thing to do. And Saul just got through saying, "Boy, isn't it great to serve God? Man, I'm glad I'm a Christian, and I'm glad that I always do what God says. look what Samuel said. I like what Samuel said. And Samuel in verse 14 said, oh, you really serve God? He says, what meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in my ears and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? Saul walked in and said, hey, I did what God said. I did everything he said. And Samuel said, oh, is that right? Then what's the sound of sheep I hear? So you got somebody playing like they're sheep out there? He said, what's that lowing of the oxen I hear? God said for you to kill all the sheep and kill all the oxen. Am I hearing things, Saul? And old Saul says, sheep, the lowing of the oxen? Hold it down, Becker, guys. You see, the truth of the matter is, he just came in, put on the big show of being a great Christian, telling how he had done everything God said, but then the thing got found out, because you see, somewhere, someplace down the line, people are going to know that you're a liar. People are going to find out. You're going to get caught. And the strange thing is, here's old Saul caught with the goods. He's got the sheep and the oxen right out there in the crowd behind him, and he said, sheep, oxen? Oh, are there some back here? Oh yeah, right, Yeah, wonder where they came from, you know. And now he's going to try to lie out of it. It's amazing what people do. A liar will keep lying until they absolutely cannot fool anybody else. I mean, as long as they think there's a chance, they're going to tell another lie. They're going to tell another lie. In other words, Saul disobeyed God, came in as a hypocrite, and as a liar, he said, I did what God said. Samuel said, oh, you did? Then what's the sheep and oxen doing back there? And he said, well, let me explain that, Samuel. And he said, don't worry about that. I can tell you everything about it. And he began to lie again. Caught with the goods, caught red-handed. And now he's going to lie out of it. I'll never forget when my little girl Deborah was she was about 3 years old. My wife Betty and I, Deborah's our first child. Deborah's now 11, almost 12. But when Deborah was about 3 years of age, we were sitting in the living room at our house in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Betty and I, we were talking and just enjoying some things together. And we were sitting there in the living room, and we noticed that Deborah got awfully quiet. And so we knew that whenever kids get quiet, something's wrong, you know. And we thought, where in the world is Deborah? What's she doing? And then about that time, we in the back bedroom, we heard a big crash, a big thud, and we heard a little voice go, We jumped up, ran down the hall, looked in her bedroom. She wasn't in there. We thought, well, she's got to be in our bedroom. Only got two of them. And so we went to our bedroom, flipped on the light, and there was Deborah standing in front of Mother's dresser. And just a little thing, in the darkness, curiosity had gotten the best of her. And she was sneaking around and getting in Mama's things, but didn't want anybody to know it. But she was too little to see on top of the dresser, and she was reaching up feeling for things. And she found something and grabbed a hold of it and pulled it towards her, and it slipped off and hit her in the head and fell on the floor. And what it was a box of face powder. She had a little mound of face powder right on the top of her head. Looked like a little dunce cap, you know. And she was standing there, a little mound of face powder on her head, her face white as a ghost. I mean, it was little blue eyes just blinking in the whole thing, you know. Powder still smoking all around her, you know. She had little white gloves on where she'd grabbed the powder, you know. Or it looked like she had white gloves. It was just powder. And she had the powder all over her dress, all over her legs, all over her feet. It was all over the rug. She had been caught with the goods. And I looked at her, and I said, Deborah, did you get in Mother's powder? She said, no, Daddy, I didn't get Mother's powder, you know. God help us. A liar is going to lie until he can't lie anymore. Young people, Saul got caught with the goods, red-handed, a sheep in one hand, an oxen in the other, and Samuel says, "What's that you got there, Saul?" He said, "Oh, I don't have anything." You know. Now I want you to know something. A liar's not only a hypocrite, but a liar's yellow. A liar is a yellow coward. May I prove it? Look again. Verse 15. Samuel said, "What's all the sheep and oxen I hear? Thought you said you did what God said." Verse 15, and Saul said, they, the people I took with me, they did it. They're the ones that did it. They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared. Not I didn't do it, Samuel. I just want you to know. I said you shouldn't do stuff like that. That's a no-no. It's not nice. And I just want you to know, them wicked, rotten people who went with me, they did it. Yeah, that's it. Hey, did you know a liar will always lie about his friends and try to put the blame on them? A liar is a yellow coward who's going to try to blame everybody else. And that's exactly what Saul did here. And he said, they did it. It wasn't me. But they had a good reason. Now watch it. Here it comes. He says here that they are the ones that brought it, and they have spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen. To do what? To sacrifice unto the Lord thy God. And he said, but now the rest of them we utterly destroyed. But see, Samuel, the reason they brought all that stuff, because they just wanted to give them to God and have some sacrifices in the temple, and everything's wonderful. And so really it's all right. See, they had the right motive about the whole thing. Hey, young people, hear me. Hey, God help you. It is never right to do wrong. Never. You say, yeah, but I'm going to do it for God. Hey, God said, kill them. And whenever God tells you to do something, don't you dare ever rationalize it and say, well, I'll just do part of it. No, God says you do everything I say. I don't care what your motive may be. There's never a good reason for telling a lie. You say, well, I can think of one good reason, because if I tell the truth, I'm going to get killed, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get spanked. I'm going to get licked. The fact of the matter is, it is much better to go ahead and tell the truth and get the thing over with than to keep adding to it, just making it worse. In our household, we have some rules for our kids. Certain rules that if they break them, they get spanked. Now, normally, with our children, we give them 3 warnings. Well, really, it's just 2. The third time they do something, we kill them. And we spank them. First time they do something, we call them in, tell them why they shouldn't do it, and tell them, don't you do it again. If they do it the second time, we call them back in and say, hey, did I tell you not to do that? Did I tell you why it was wrong? And then I make them tell me. And then I tell them, you do that one more time and I'll spank you. Now, the third time my kids do something, they know they're going to get spanked because we keep our word. Because it's not right to do wrong. Never. But there are some things that we don't warn our kids about at all. We warn them one time, and that settles it forever. One of those things is, if you ever tell a lie, you get spanked. No warnings. There is nothing worse than a liar. Because a liar is a hypocrite, a liar is a thief, a liar is yellow, a liar is everything you can think of. God hates liars. Hey, did you know that J. Edgar Hoover, before he died, who was head of the FBI, said that every criminal that has ever been caught is a liar. And every criminal that hasn't been caught is a liar. Did you know that our prisons are full of people that never did anything wrong? I'm innocent. Look, every crook is a liar. In simple language, you don't become a liar because you're a crook, but people will become criminals because they are liars. Lying is what led to it, thinking they could get away with it. And young people, you can't get away with sin. You can't get away with lying. Somewhere, time down the line, it's going to catch up to you. And some of you think that Mom and Daddy don't know what you're doing, and you can lie to them, and you can get away with it. You can't do it. You can't do it. They're going to find out. They've always got ways of finding out. I don't know. I used to think my mother had holes had eyes in the back of her head as well as the front when I was a kid, because it would seem like we couldn't do anything wrong and get away with it. My mother and my daddy knew everything we did. And we'd walk in after we had done something off at school, and we'd walk in and find out she knew about it. I don't know. To this day, I'm still not sure about some of the things, how she knew. I found out sometimes that, she'd just call and check with the school every once in a while. She called and talked with the teacher once in a blue moon. And oh, brother, she always seemed to know. I used to wonder, how in the world can she find out? How in the world does she know when I'm doing something? Some of you wonder, how in the world can a teacher tell when I'm cheating? I'll tell you. It's because every last one of us used to be young people. And we used to try to get away with some of the same things. And we know. I remember my dad one day came in and told my older brother Bruce and me. He said, boys, I want you to stay away from that North Canadian River. Now, the North Canadian River was about a half a mile behind our house. And we loved to go down and swim in the North Canadian River. Now, the only problem with the North Canadian River was that most of the time it didn't have any water in it. This was in Oklahoma, and, man, it was dry most of the time. And once in a while, they would open the floodgates at the dam, and the river would fill up. And, boy, I mean, the water was swift. And I know for a fact that it was dangerous because I almost drowned one day. We were down there swimming, and they opened the floodgates. And, brother, here came the water rushing down that riverbed, and suddenly we were in it. And that thing carried me about a quarter of a mile down the river, and I just tumbling over one thing right after another, grabbing everything I could think of. And God just kept me from being killed. It's the only reason I'm standing here alive today. But my daddy, he stood up and said, "Boys, don't you go." So there's only one thing we could do. We were going to go, I mean, that's the only thing to do, And when you're a kid, you think you know more than everybody else does. So, brother, we're going to go. But most of the time we went, there wasn't any water in the river. It was dry, just a lot of riverbed sand, But there were little sinkholes, There were dips or holes in the river that would hold water when the river dried up. There were little sinkholes full of water. And, oh, you talk about a beautiful place to swim. Man, I mean, it was fantastic. We had the biggest time, and we'd step there in the woods, and we'd shuck everything we had on, and we'd go running out there across the sand into the riverbed, and we'd jump into one of them holes, and we'd have the splashingest good time you ever thought about having in all your life. I mean, it was fantastic. The water was beautiful. As a matter of fact, it was so beautiful that sometimes it was yellowish, green, orange color, It was stagnant water. Now, I don't know if you know anything about stagnant water, but that means water that has sat, and it's got a scum on the top of it, a film-looking thing, and stink to high heaven. I mean, it was something else. But oh, brother, we'd go swimming in that. And I remember my dad. He said, "Don't you go swimming down there." We thought, well, now what are we going to do? And we thought, now the only way they know that we go swimming is when we come home with our hair wet. So we'll just go on back up there. We'll just go swimming, and we just won't get our hair wet. Nobody dives. Everybody swims on top. And that wasn't too hard. I mean, the water was so thick from all the filth in it, you could just about walk on top of it. And we went swimming. And I said, don't splash, don't get my hair wet, whatever you do, don't splash me, And man, we were going to do it. Man, we had it figured out. We were smarter than they were. We went swimming, all of us guys. We had the big time. We got dressed, went back home, walked in the living room. Mother looked at us and said, "Hey, guys, where you been?" I said, "Oh, we just been playing down the street." Mother looked at us and said, "You've been swimming, haven't you?" And we thought, what in the world? How in the world could she do it? No, ma'am, we have been swimming. "Oh, yes, you have. Come here." And, oh, me. We just knew we'd been had it. And she said, "You have been swimming, haven't you?" And she kept grilling us until finally she said, "Yes, ma'am, we've been swimming." And, we knew we was going to get killed. That's all there was to it, And for the life now, I couldn't figure out how she knew it. We felt her hair. How did she know we were swimming? Our hair's dry. We didn't get our hair wet. I know now. We smelled like the sinkhole, and that was it. We smelled like an old stagnant water hole. Brother, Mom and Daddy gonna find out. I never could figure out how they found out I was smoking. No, ma'am, no, it's not smoking. Oh, yes, you are. Blistered my hind end. 2 ways they found out. Number one, I smelled like a tobacco barn. And number two, it gets kind of suspicious when a kid goes in and brushes his teeth 10 times a day, all on the same day, trying to cover up the breath. Yeah, they knew. They knew. Young people, hey, a liar is a coward. A liar is a crook. A liar blames others. A liar's a hypocrite. A liar is sinning against God. You can't get away with it no matter who you are. You tell one lie and I'll guarantee you this whole thing will catch up to you and you'll be had. Saul was a liar. And he said, the people did it. No, Saul did it, and God knew it. And because of it, Saul lost his kingdom. Verse 19, wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, and did fly, but thou didst fly upon the spoil and didst evil in the sight of the Lord? Why in the world didn't you do what God said, Saul? And Saul said unto Samuel, but I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and I did go where the Lord told me. And he said, and not only that, he said, I can prove that I killed everybody. Ask the king. He's standing right here. Here's Agag, the king of the Amalekites. Ask him. He'll tell you that I did it. Now, there's a real good example of obeying God. Agag, let me ask you a question. Did Saul kill all your people? He sure did. Man, I mean, you talk about a mess. It was something else, bloodiest thing I ever saw in my life. Killed them all. Did he kill all the animals? Except all those right out there. He killed every last one of them of those. That's wonderful, Agag. You mean he did what God said? That's right. Did he kill you? Huh? Because you're one of the all. See, Agag, man, he was living high now. He figured, well, I'll just be a prisoner for a while, no be any big deal. Nobody's going to kill me. And he was kind of smart about the whole thing. He said, well, of course he didn't kill me. I'm standing right here in front of you, ugly. And the fact is, he thought he was going to live. He wasn't going to get killed. My Bible tells me that Samuel picked up the sword and cut his head off. Now, listen to me, young people. When God says do something, do it. When God says do something, do it completely. You'll sin against God if you don't. You can't cover up your sin by lying. Lying is a sin. And it just adds to your wickedness and adds to your sin and it'll add to your trouble. Do you know that God, hey, teenagers, look at me. Young people, hear me. Do you know that God hates lying so much that he killed 2 people just for lying? God killed them personally. In the book of Acts in chapter 5, their names were Ananias and Sapphira. And Ananias and Sapphira were church members. And they, quote unquote, loved God. But they lied to God. People were selling their property, and they were putting it all into a kind of a community thing, and everybody in the church were using the money as they needed it, and that way everybody had plenty of food, and everybody had plenty of clothing, had their needs met, and people were putting theirs in, and some people were putting in a lot more than others, and because of it, some Christians were looking up to others and say, boy, those are wonderful Christians. Man, look how much they put in. Well, of course, we didn't have that much, but those people had a lot more than we did, but it didn't matter to them. They went ahead and put it all in anyway. They really loved God, and they did. But Ananias and Sapphira, they got jealous about the whole thing, And they thought, look at them people. They're always the ones that are getting bragged on. They're always the ones that are getting patted on the back. And everybody thinks they're such great Christians. And I tell you what we'll do. We'll sell our property. Well, they sold it, and apparently they got more for it than they thought they would. And so they kept back part of the money, and they took it all in and said, this is everything we got. But they kept some of it. And Peter looked at him and said, is this everything you got? Every dime of it. Isn't that wonderful? But God told Peter that Ananias was lying. He said, Ananias, he said, why hath Satan filled thy heart to lie to the Holy Spirit? He said, you haven't lied to me, you lied to God. You're trying to make all these people think that you love God, that you're a wonderful Christian, and yet you're sinning, you're stealing from God, you're lying to God about it now and trying to live a lie and make everybody think you're such a wonderful Christian. Peter said, Ananias, you're a dead man. And brother, I mean, that quick, Ananias fell over dead right there in front of him in the room. They carried him out, went off to bury him. And see, Ananias and his wife, Sapphira, had made an agreement. She was going to go shopping for a while, and then she was supposed to come in later, and that way, see, they both lie together, and she would back up her husband's story. And so she was to come in later and say the same thing, the exact same figure, and that way everybody would believe them. That was the idea. But you see, they hadn't thought about the fact they were lying to God, and that God wouldn't put up with it. God hates lying. And so Sapphira, she comes in later, been out shopping at Sears, you know, and she's got all kinds of bags under her arms and the whole thing. And she walks in, and she said, hey, Peter, said, by the way, said, did my husband come by here earlier? He says, yes, as a matter of fact, Sapphira said, Ananias was here. Come here, let me ask you something. She's ready. She knows what he's going to ask. They had it planned. He said, Sapphira, tell me, he said, your husband came in here and brought a bunch of money this morning. I mean, a good amount and everything. He said, is that really what you got for the property you sold? She said, yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? Isn't it nice? I mean, nice property and everything about this. And he looked at her. I can see him pound the desk here in front of him or whatever might have been there. And he said, Sapphira, how in this world could you and your husband agree to lie to God like that? You didn't lie to me, you lied to God. About that time, the front door opened in and walked a bunch of guys with shovels in their hands. They'd been out burying her husband. She didn't know it. And Peter said, you see those guys walking in the door? They just got through burying your husband, and in a few minutes they're going to throw dirt in your face too, because you're dead. And that quick, she fell over dead right there in front of them. And they buried her. Hey, God hates lying. Young people, whatever you do, God help you. Don't lie. Don't lie. You say, yeah, but preacher, I believe that today we live in a different time, and yeah, I know it. Today we have what they call situation ethics. Now, some of the young ones aren't going to understand that, but the older young people, you will. What is situation ethics? It means that in certain circumstances, it's all right to do anything. That under certain conditions, it doesn't matter what it is. In other words, in this case, it's all right. When I mean, I had to tell a lie so we wouldn't get in trouble. Or I had to tell a lie so somebody else wouldn't get in trouble. Well, I had to tell a lie so that people wouldn't look bad about the thing. And I had to tell a lie or they would have thought I was a wicked Christian. You are a wicked Christian if you lie. Or God won't mind if I disobey this one time. That's what Saul said. Oh, well, I knew God wouldn't mind it. And the people knew God wouldn't mind it. I mean, after all, we brought this stuff here back to the sheep and oxen to offer to God on a sacrifice. And God's going to be worshipped with all of this stuff. God didn't want sacrifices. He wanted obedience. God says, you do what I say. Young people, you listen to me. God help you. Lying will get you in trouble like you never dreamed possible. It's all right to tell a lie this time? No, it's never all right. You lie, you'll get caught. You lie now, and I'll guarantee you'll lie for the rest of your life if you start lying now. Nobody likes a liar. A liar can't be trusted. A liar cannot be given any responsibility. People hate a liar. Even unsaved people hate liars. God hates liars as well. Some young people wanting to get married, and teenagers old enough to even think about it, and they're dating, they go out, and they say, well, we're engaged, so it's all right if we go ahead and play around with sex, because we're going to get married anyway. No, that's not true. My Bible says that as far as sex is concerned, that ought to wait until after you're married. It is a sin against God for anybody to have premarital sex. And you can lie all you want to yourself and to your loved ones, so to speak, and to your friends. But the fact of the matter is, you're a liar, and you're deceiving yourself if you believe that it's all right to sin. It's never all right to do anything. God will never overlook it. Anything that's wrong. But sometimes people say, well, it's all right to steal. It's all right to steal. Did you know that a thief is a liar? A thief is a liar. I remember when I was in the first grade, we were poor. We didn't have anything. I mean poor. As a matter of fact, when I was in the first grade, I had to wear a lot of clothing that I didn't tell anybody about. And to this day, I still don't tell some people some things that I wore. My wife don't even know some things I wore when I was a little kid growing up. I always wore hand-me-downs. I don't ever remember getting anything brand new. And I even wore hand-me-downs. Because my older brother Bruce, he was a lot bigger than I was. And so my mother, she didn't waste anything. She thought, well, why put those things in a box, those clothes in a box that Darrell can't wear yet, and just let them sit in the closet for several months or maybe a year. We'll send them to his cousin Earl and let Earl wear them for a while. And then after Earl outgrows them, then Darrell will be about ready to get into them. And so she would send my brother's clothes after he outgrew them, send them to my cousin Earl in Shawnee, Oklahoma, 36 miles away from Oklahoma City. And Earl would wear my clothes before I got to them. And Earl, he didn't have any respect for my clothes. Earl was a bully. He was the kid on the block that everybody hated, you know. He was the kid that walked down the street and said, hey, anybody want to fight, you know? And everybody said, no. He said, that's good, let's fight, you know. And he was that kind of guy. And in my clothes, he was a bully. And, man, I mean, the big day would come, and they'd ship, after Earl would outgrow my clothes, they'd ship them back to Mother so I could wear them. And the postman would come and ring the doorbell, and we'd all run to the front door, and a package. Man, that was big stuff. A package. Oh, boy, a package. Wonder what it is. Mother would say, wonder what it is, honey? I said, I don't know, but let's open it, you know. And, boy, we'd tear it open, you know, and we'd pull it out. And Mother would say, oh, look, it's clothes. And everybody would say, clothes? Clothes for who? Who? And Mother would say, it's clothes for Darrell. Look now. And she'd hold them up. And I ain't never seen clothes like that in all my life. I mean, the holes had holes. I mean, it was unbelievable. The patches had patches on them. And Earl, he just tore them up. I mean, it was a mess. And that's what I had to wear. That's what I had to wear. I remember a coat that I wore when I was a kid. I wore a coat, beautiful thing. I mean, beautiful coat. Warm, man, it was good to have, too. It had a hood and everything, you know. Buttoned right up the front, and real heavy coat for the winter. And in Oklahoma, you needed them, because, boy, in Oklahoma, the winters really get rough. The wind never stops blowing. And the old saying, there's nothing between you and Oklahoma wind except a barbed wire fence. That's true, because there's no trees hardly at all, and it's just flat as it can be. And I mean, that wind comes sweeping across the plain, and it's rough. But I was warm, I'll guarantee you. I had a beautiful warm coat. Matter of fact, it was so beautiful, it had pink and yellow and red and orange flowers all the way down the front of it. It was my sister's coat. And, oh, you talk about hating to wear a coat. I hated that thing. And everybody said, he's wearing his sister's coat. He's wearing his sister's coat. And, oh, man, I want you to know, by the time I got to school, I was froze to death. You said, I thought you said that the coat was warm. Oh, the coat was. But anytime I got near the playground, I jerked the thing off, turned it inside out, and carried it on my back. I didn't want anybody to see all them flowers, you know. And, oh, it was a mess. It was a mess. We were poor.
And I remember one day I saw a kid, he had a fistful of change like I ain't never seen in all my life. Nickels and dimes and quarters and pennies, and I just looked at it. Well, I'd never seen that much money. And I saw him put it in his locker. And that was back when they didn't have any locks on the locker, because each set of locker was right there in the classroom. It wasn't out in the hall, they were in everybody's room. Of course, you stayed in the same room all day in the first grade. And I thought to myself, I'm going to get me some of his money. And I snuck in there. And during a recess, I reached in and I pulled out the first thing I could get my finger on and put it in my pocket. I thought, now I won't take all of it. I'm going to be honest and fair. I'll just take some of it. I mean, I wouldn't be mean and ugly and take all of it. That's bad. I'll just take some of it. Because that's not so bad. I don't care if you take all of it or one part of it. It's sin. It's wrong. Stealing's wrong. And I shoved that thing in my pocket. I didn't even know what it was. I just wanted to stick it in my pocket and get out of there quick. And later during the classroom, I reached in my own pocket. And everybody would think it was mine because that was right there. I didn't mind doing it in front of everybody then because everybody think it's mine. I reached in my pocket and pulled out, and it was a nickel. And oh, it's the prettiest nickel I'd ever seen in my life. And man, nickel's big stuff. Man, I looked at that and I thought, boy, am I rich. I got a nickel. And I've got everything I need now. And a little boy, apparently it was money to pay for something that the class was getting. I don't remember exactly. But he had to the penny the right amount of money. And he went to pay for it and the nickel was missing. And he told the teacher, he said, somebody stole my nickel. And so she started checking. Anybody here know anybody get in his lockers and get any money out of it? No, nobody. No, Darrell, you know anything about it? No, who'd do a thing like a terrible thing like that? Oh, nobody should do anything. That's terrible. Thief, right, crook. Yes, that's it, you know. Did you do it? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Sure didn't do it. Okay, everybody line up. Let's see what you got in your pockets. And he told the teacher, he said, Teacher, I know what it is. I know how you can find it. She said, you do? He said, yeah. Look at the rest of my money. And his mother had painted red fingernail polish, a small spot of it on every coin. And my heart sank. Everybody put everything on your desk. Right there it is. And boy, here she came. Got to my desk. And I laid out everything but the nickel. Is that everything you got in your pockets, Darrell? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Said, mind if I feel your pocket? Well, no, man, it's not necessary. That's everything's right there, you know. It's all right there. Said, you don't. You stay out of my pocket. You know. She felt my pocket and said, "What's that?" "That's my leg. Get your hand off of it." You know. No. What's that in your pocket, ma'am? I don't have anything in my pocket. She reached down in my pocket and pulled out that nickel. Painted red on one side. How in the world did that get there? You didn't put it there? No, ma'am. I've never seen that nickel before in my life. That's funny. She turned it over, and there was that red spot on the other side. I hadn't even seen it. She said, "That's strange, because that one matches all the others he's got up there. You stole that, didn't you?" "No, ma'am, I didn't steal that." "No, ma'am." "How did that red get on there?" "I don't know. Is it lipstick? What is it, you know?" And, I lied, and I squirmed, but I knew I'd been caught. Young people, hey, there is nothing worse than being caught in a lie. You talk about embarrassing. You talk about hard. God help you. Stealing of any kind, I don't care if it's a nickel or if it's $1,000. It's a sin against God, and it's wrong. A thief is a lazy bum that won't go out and do anything for themselves. Did you know that in shoplifting alone, people go out and steal little things? You say, well, it's just a little thing. Do you know that every year over $4 billion worth of merchandise are stolen out of stores by shoplifters? $4 billion. Shoplifting. Well, it's just a little piece of candy. Well, it's just a little thing here, a little bottle of that. It doesn't matter what it is. God help you. It's sin against God. You say, well, I just took her pencil. Well, I just took the paper. You say, well, I just borrowed it. Yeah, I know, with the intention of never paying something back. Young people, God help you. A thief is a crook, a thief is a liar. My Bible says you not only have to, when you steal, you not only have to confess it and get it made right with God, but you've got to take it back. You've got to make it right. That's what the Bible says. You cannot cover your sins and get away with it. Hey, you say, I'll cover it with a lie. God says, I'll uncover it. Young people, some of you here this morning, you lie to your mama, you lie to your daddy, you lie to your friends, you lie to the teachers, you lie to your preacher. You constantly are telling lies, and you think you're getting away with it. You're not getting away with it, because even if you don't get caught right then, it gives you more courage to tell more lies, because you think you are getting away with it, and one day you're going to tell a big one that's going to get you in trouble like you never dreamed possible. God hates lying. God help you always tell the truth. Always tell the truth. It's never right to do wrong.